I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hey everybody, I had to switch over to a different Wi-Fi. Looks like it's still glitchy, so I'm waiting for it to catch up. I could tell that it was super glitchy, so I had to switch over to a different Wi-Fi to try to make that work a little better. Let's say hi to some people. Adrian Hicks is first. He says, let's go. Nina Williams says, hi everyone with the peace sign. My favorite auntie. Adra Capoy is here. He says, it's on. Leon's here. He says, chilling at the Capitalist Plantation on the 996 schedule. I actually know what that is now. I'm so sorry that you have to work that. He's asking how everybody's doing. Snowman is here. He says, let's get it. And to think I just finished a women's basketball game. Perfect timing for the Dancing Maggies. Yes, the Dancing Maggies. And Adric says, let's hear it for the Dancing Maggies. I can't say it right. So I hope everybody's doing well this Sunday. So have you guys ever heard a woman call herself a goddess and then wondered, like, what exactly makes you a goddess? And how do you recognize true goddess energy in others? It has to be more than just confidence or being pretty, right? So there has to be this energy of wisdom, compassion, transcendence, right? There has to be something there that gives that goddess energy, right? So we are in a time where goddess is thrown around really casually, right? Like, make him treat you like the goddess that you are, those kind of things. Or I'm a goddess, I'm a queen, I'm a princess, I might be a princess, but just kidding. Let's go ahead and break it down. So we'll talk about what is goddess energy, how for women, how do you cultivate that in yourself? And then how can you recognize it in the women around you? And that's for men and women to recognize it. Okay. Leon says Snowman Multimedia and Maggie co-stream on the WNBA. Well, maybe there's goddesses in the WNBA. I have no idea. I don't really partake of sports ball, so I don't know. All right. So from the beginning of human civilization, we've sought meaning in the unknown, right? We've tried to explain what is going on that we don't know about. So The divine feminine, dogs are barking. Hopefully you guys can't hear that. Um, the divine feminine, the goddess, has existed in nearly every culture as a symbol of wisdom, power, spirituality, and spiritual transcendence. So the concept itself is not new. It has roots in our deepest histories where people assigned God and goddess status to forces they couldn't understand. Dogs are still barking. So give me one. This is what happens when you are on live. So give me 1 second to shut the door. Thank you. Sometimes cats get in the backyard and they just have to bark. Okay, so um the concept itself of being a goddess is not new. It has roots in our deepest histories where people assigned those god and goddess status to forces, right? So there are civilizations that didn't have prominent goddess worship. So, for example, the nomadic steppe cultures of early Eurasia were very warrior based. They leaned towards sky daddies and storm gods rather than any type of like divine feminine figure. Their emphasis was on survival and conquest, right? It meant that their deities reflected their war driven existence. Okay. So um they didn't they didn't have a lot of focus on spirituality, but it was pretty rare. It was pretty rare for societies not to have a goddess or many goddesses that exemplified this wisdom, power, and spiritual transcendence. So to kind of grasp the goddess energy, we start in the past, right? That's we've always had this. So archaeology provides evidence of goddess worship dating back thousands of years. We have worshipped goddesses for thousands of years. There are three key societies that highlight this connection that you've heard of. So that's why I'm going to talk about them. One is ancient Egypt, the goddess Isis, among many goddesses in the pantheon. She symbolized magic, motherhood, and connection to the divine. It's that spirituality again. She was revered as a source of protection and wisdom. And then in ancient Greece, goddesses like Athena, among many goddesses in the pantheon, she evoked wisdom and strategy. Well, you had Aphrodite, that was love and beauty, right? They had different aspects of this feminine power. And then in the Indus Valley civilizations, right, the goddess Shakti, right, among many, again in the pantheon, was associated with energy and a divine force. And she was really a central figure in the early Vedic tradition. So this is like Hindu, okay, showing the importance of feminine spirituality in everyday life. Leon says, yes, we hear about the goddess complex coming from that weird eternal ego. Yeah. And Adrian's the dogs. Yes. They're still barking. So I'm thinking there must be a cat or something outside that they want to get to. If somebody was here to visit me, the door's unlocked. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So science and psychology over time really challenged the necessity of having divine assignments, right? It's no, it's actually this or it's this, right? So theories about cognitive bias, evolutionary survival mechanisms, the psychological need for archetypes, all of that kind of explained away humans' needs for a deity made in their image, right? But despite all of those advancements, we still see in humanity the need for spiritual embodiment, right? It persists. We as humans are always seeking further knowledge, further guidance. We're always seeking the spiritual, right? So Why? Because the goddess archetype provides a tangible roadmap for personal growth. And there are many videos that I've shown and continue to show that there are the goddess, the divine feminine, when it is embodied, gives you step-by-step instructions on how to spiritually ascend, how to perform self-discovery and connection to something greater than ourselves. So without those kind of things, what happens without that, right? So then we have a world that's kind of devoid of the divine feminine. And could it naturally lead to the specific kind of patriarchy that we see today? Maybe. So it makes me think about, why would a power, right, or some entity in power want to erase the goddess from our consciousness? As we've talked about in previous videos, Asherah was removed from everything and turned into a stick or a tree. The feminines were changed out of the pantheon hierarchy into different things. We moved into our three major world religions are all from Abraham and are all monotheistic, right? Could it be that a world focused on hyper masculinity, or like pushing, it's sort of like the powers want to be hyper masculine and then they want to push us towards androgyny? Part of that could be a rejection of the divine feminine power. It makes people easier to control if they aren't finding spiritual meaning, if they aren't going through personal growth, right? So as we talked about before, the masculine is the builder's mindset. That's the mindset that the masculine has, is making plans to build and grow and to make things, and like, he's the master of the earth, right? The earth things. You have wood and you need a foundation and you do all these things, right? He has this builder's mindset, right? But the builder's mindset values production, expansion, conquest, right? It's deeply masculine. Okay. So if we are to be controlled, wouldn't a power want everyone to kind of be in the builder's mindset, to expand and grow and send resources up? I don't know. I got a little deep there, but that's one of my thoughts. It's very efficient for control to get rid of the divine feminine, because then we're lacking empathy, intuition, unconditional love. Not that men don't have that. I've already had this argument, but that's the very qualities of the divine feminine that create balance. Okay. So, boy, everybody's being really quiet in the comment section. What do you guys think of my theory there? that it makes sense for a country, or for, the West or something like that, to get rid of femininity and personal growth and spiritual transcendence, and try to make everybody sort of into these worker bees in this builder's mindset. I don't know. I could be completely off, but tell me what you think. So goddesses aren't just figures of mythology, right? So I've said that several times. They are the blueprint for spiritual transcendence. Hi, Cutting Up with the Joneses. Thanks for being here. Dr. Johnson is here. He says, it makes sense. It's efficient, right? Everybody's in that working mindset. That's kind of where, now that it's kind of solidifying in my mind, jobs are set up that work for masculinity, right? Now certain masculines, of course, but it's work and jobs and all of that. And so if it was hyper capitalist, so you wanted all the money to flow up, you would want a bunch of worker bees who didn't spiritually transcend. So anyway, the divine feminine energy embodies like the Holy Spirit, like we talked about before, in a previous video. I keep referencing previous videos. Hopefully everybody's caught up. If not, go back and watch them. that divine feminine is this bridge between the earthly and the divine, right? It's to assist the masculine and others to reach spiritual transcendence, right? So when women embrace their divine femininity, their goddess likeness, right? And those teachings, we literally find the guidance to the higher wisdom, to the personal salvation, to those kind of things. Um, I think the videos, if you guys haven't watched, go back and watch is Divine Femininity for Salvation and Masculinity for Liberation. Those two things are really, really important. But let's, Cutting Up with the Joneses says YouTuber Richard Grannon talks about the powers to be wanting the masses to be androgynous consumers. Okay, well, then I'm not the only one who thought of it. Thank God. I'm not just spitting in the wind here. Okay, so when we talk about this 7-step process to transcendence, because throughout history, the number 7 is always associated with divine feminine, a goddess, or divine feminine energy, right? Several goddesses and female deities align with this number. There are 7 descriptions of the Holy Spirit. Ishtar had links to the 7 gates of the underworld. Hathor was associated with the 7 Hathors who each determine fates. The Pleiades, or the 7 sisters is what they're called. They're stars. They each have celestial significance. Mary Magdalene saw 7 gatekeepers in her vision. And that's just a few examples. The number 7 and these 7 things that you have to overcome are constantly seen with these goddesses and divine feminines. And so we can summarize that into these are the 7 steps to reach spiritual transcendence. Leon says, yes, I believe, especially with the ideal of a monotheistic God where those in power, so-called, has access to God, which creates a hierarchy in your place, class, and caste in society. So true. The indoctrination that they give us by trying to hegemony, right? This is the view of masculinity, and this is the masculinity that we want you to embody, which is John Henry yourself to death, and getting rid of femininity, hiding it from women, telling them it's something that it's not. All of these things creates all the worker bees, right? And everybody gets plugged into their place in the caste system and work until you die. So I made I'm saying it that way, because other people may summarize those 7 things from all these different goddesses in a different way. But one of the things I wanted to give people is the 7 steps to transcendence drawn from those archetypes. Now, some of this is if you are looking at somebody else who either says they're a goddess or you think, oh, that's a real goddess. You can look at these steps and say, are they embodying them? Maybe not 100% of them, because no one's an actual goddess, but how many of these things do they embody? How many of these things are they actively working on, right? Because a goddess would know where their faults are or where their weaknesses are and the things that they need to work on, right? So I'm going to give you guys the 7 steps. Okay, so the first one is awareness, right? Recognizing that something within is calling for more, a yearning for knowledge, right? So questioning purpose, seeking wisdom, not just thinking you know everything and you got everything down pat, just awareness that there's something bigger. There's something bigger at play. There's something bigger for me, those kind of things. There's something out there. The second one, which is where a lot of people get stuck, and we're only at number 2, is healing. So confronting past wounds, confronting trauma, processing those things, trying to work through them so they don't trigger you or don't trigger you as much, or you recognize that you're being triggered, right? Breaking those cycles. This means like engaging in self-care or going to therapy, doing shadow work, right? Which I'm always going to be a proponent of, right? The third one is authenticity. I'm going to pause for a second because something I want to tell you guys is men can go through these stages too. Again, this is about femininity and masculinity, and all of us have femininity and masculinity, but how we present or what our purpose is tied to one or the other. The intention, if you look at all these writings, all these ancient writings, the intention always was for the divine feminine to assist the masculine to maintain his connection to power, wisdom, and the divine. Okay. So you don't need a woman to be able to do these things. Although if you're with a woman, she should be helping you do these things. It sounds a little judgy on my part, but I'm going to double down on it. A woman should be helping you with these things. But if you're having to do them on your own, more power to you, because it may be a little bit harder, just like it would be harder for me to be in a builder's mindset. I would have to really tap into my masculinity to do that. So number 3, authenticity. You guys know I push this and push this and push this. So aligning all your actions with your inner truth. So you're not faking, you're not masking, you're not hiding, you're not withholding, you're not lying, none of that. Aligning your actions with your inner truth. So like for a woman, that means not seeking external validation, but trusting intuition. And I can tell you right now, as a woman who does therapy with women, we struggle with not seeking external validation. Don't know why that's why it's always a problem for the goddesses to overcome. Because we need to get away from external validation and seek our own intuition. In relationship, sometimes that puts too much pressure on a man too. Even for a submissive woman, if she's constantly needing external validation, you can't trust her to operate on her own and independently, because she always has to be told this is right, this is wrong, don't do that, don't do this. But in the age of social media, external validation is huge. Leon says external validation is a real topic. Yeah, so people get stuck there too. So even if we're getting past the trauma and we're doing the healing, living authentically can be a bit of a struggle. Then we have empowerment. Now, you see empowerment as number 4. Sometimes we haven't done the healing and we're hitting on the empowerment. And the unfortunate part is we're giving power to our trauma and we're giving power to our triggers when we need to be healed and authentic before we really then infuse ourselves with power. When we've done the healing and we're living authentically, and then we turbocharge that with confidence, that's empowerment, is having that confidence, right? That's where we're starting to get into that power and that wisdom, right? These are women who will set boundaries with everyone. You can't treat me like this. This is not allowed. I'm in a relationship. Don't speak to me, or I won't do that. I'm not easily talked into things, right? Speaks her truth. Remember, she's living authentically. I love this. This is great. I want spaghetti for dinner, those kind of things. And it's firm in her beliefs and in who she believes in. She will stand 10 toes on what she believes and who she believes in. Number 5 is wisdom. So this is learning from experience. Again, if you're not living authentically and healing yourself, you can't do this. But learning from experience and sharing insight with other people, sharing that wisdom, like being a mentor, being a guide to people who are on their journey or want to be on this journey of transcending, of self-discovery, of growth, right? Again, if you haven't done the healing and you're trying to guide people, woof, that's rough. I've done a show on a woman. It's called The Dark Triad. If you want to go back and watch that, this is a woman who hasn't done any of that other stuff, but sets herself up to be to have all this wisdom and to be a guide and a leader. And what she is guiding women to do is really, really unhealthy. And she's a great example of not going through the steps. Adrian says, as long as spaghetti is accompanied with catfish, it is. And there shall be, this is dinner today, spaghetti and catfish with banana pudding ice cream from Bluebell. Did you guys know that Bluebell makes banana pudding ice cream? I'm so stoked to try it. I'm so exciting. That is a total aside and an ADHD moment. So sorry for that. Number 6 is connection, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. So her ability to see that by learning from experience, to see patterns repeat itself, to really look at history, to look how people are connected and what they're doing, she values people working in community. She will devalue things that make no logical sense. We're not just going to maintain the rules because that's the rules and that's the way we've always done it. It's like this bigger connection. It's like seeing things from 35,000 feet, right? So she will value community in a different way and value spiritual practices and emotional intelligence, both by insisting that she practices emotional intelligence, but that other people around her do too. And if they don't know what it is, she will teach them without judgment. Hi, Rael. Thank you for being here. And then number 7 is the transcendence. Okay, so step number 7 is embodying that goddess energy fully, guiding other people from a place of being authentic, being healed, empowering herself with confidence out of that calm, healed state, being able to speak firmly without having to be aggressive with people. It's a calm power and energy and wisdom, right? So she will guide other people. She will be a light to others, a light in the world. So her presence should inspire you, inspire other people. Her presence should heal you, should help you heal, should help you look at your faults and weaknesses in a different way, not as something to beat yourself up with, but as a thing to just deal with and to help you to deal with it in a way that doesn't make you feel bad. And she should uplift people around her. People should seek out her light. That's how we know. That's how we find that real goddess energy. I say this all the time. If a man has to tell you he's a nice guy, question whether he's a nice guy. If a woman has to tell you that she has that goddess energy or that she has that divine feminine energy because you didn't see it, you didn't notice it right off the bat, you should question it. Okay. So, how would we actually find it in others? Notice that people who embody those things, it's salvific. It feels freeing, it feels kind, it feels loving, right? But spiritual leaders in our modern times rarely embody that salvific feeling of the goddess. The Abrahamic religions they did kill the goddess, right? They divorced Yahweh from Asherah and then made her a tree. They literally tore down all of the temples to the females, right? And so they killed off the goddess, and look where we're at. But we still crave those promises from the goddess. We still crave that kind, loving, peaceful, safe energy, the wisdom and the insight and the inspiration of that goddess, right? We want the connection to the divine, and it's hard to find in spirituality, right? Because the spiritual leaders, they're a little bit more like that tribe that was very warrior like. It's a battle, it's a battle, it's a battle. To move forward in our life, we have to reunite the Godhead and the Goddess, right? Whether that's internally, externally, your belief system, society as a whole, they have to be reunited and balanced because it's it's not merely about focusing on the wounded feminine or the toxic masculine. We do that so much. You can find hundreds of videos about the wounded feminine and everything the feminine does that's wrong and bad and ridiculous, or all, women this, women that, women, right? You can find hundreds of videos about the toxic masculine and men this and everything they do wrong and how they shouldn't do this, and oh, my personal favorite, if only women would do this and if only men would do that. If it was that easy, we would have done it, right? All this talking about the wounded feminine and the toxic masculine gives power to those archetypes. So we have to stop competing over which energy is better or worse. We need them both. I kind of think about it like this. When you're raising children, and if you constantly tell them, don't do this, don't do that, no, you can't have this, don't go over there, don't, and you never tell them what they can do, you're creating a child that just freezes. If somebody is constantly telling me, no, don't do that, don't do this, you can't have that, don't go there, don't say this, you're never telling me what I can do. You're never telling me what I'm allowed to do. So, in talking about the wounded feminine and the toxic masculine all the time, we're never telling people or showing, that's even more important. We're never showing people what a healed feminine looks like, or what an appropriate masculine looks like, right? A healthy masculine, a healthy feminine. And so what I wanted to do today was kind of talk about the goddess and what that energy looks like and how to find it in people so that we aren't giving those wounded feminine and toxic masculine archetypes more power. Nobody's going to win if we keep competing over which one's better and which one's worse. They need to come together, right? Hi, Rael. Thank you for being here. I think I might have said that, but in case, I want to say it again. Hi, AB Media. Good to see you. Rael says exactly. So we have to reunite the Godhead and the Goddess. We have to balance our own energies inside and balance everything outside of us. We are really close to losing the ability to recognize what's healthy and good because we do so much focus on what is bad. Yeah. So this goddess energy is not about domination. It's not about the feminine is more and we need a matriarchy and we need blah, 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 blah. A matriarchy is just a feminine-led patriarchy. Like that's, if we really embodied that energy, this goddess would not want a matriarchy, right? Because the builder's mindset is the one who should be concentrated with the earth, and the goddess, the divine energy, should be concentrated with the ether, okay? With the spirit, with the future, with the guidance, with the map, right? The goddess energy is about balance, unity, and transcendence. So when we reclaim that energy, we literally reclaim ourselves and who we are intended to be as human beings. So, oh, Rael's this great topic, Maggie. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing much better. I am doing much better, Sometimes things happen in life, and if some of you have not seen the video that I put out about where I was for about 6 weeks, please feel free to go back and watch that. But sometimes things happen in life that completely change your life, and you just find a new normal. You just find meaning where you can find meaning, and sometimes bad things happen, and that's it. There's no meaning behind it. It just happened. It happened, and here we are. So I appreciate you asking. Rael says femininity and masculinity are equally as valuable as the other. The two energies complement each other. Yes. And thank you for saying that, because I do have to remind people sometimes that it's not a competition. It's not a battle. This isn't like a magnet where they are constantly repelling each other to become a whole entity. It's like the yin yang symbol. They complement each other. Where you are weak, I fill it in. Where I am weak, you fill it in. And together, we make a whole entity, right? Compassionate and Callous says, is there any info on what was the catalyst in the removal of Asherah's temples, etc.? So that was, I believe it was King Herod. And so when it was, I'm pretty sure it was King Herod. So during that time was when Judaism was taking off, and they were trying to have one religion, and the powers that be at that time decided that there would be one Godhead. So they still kind of had a pantheon, but it became more like a pyramid. So original Judaism was not monotheistic. And in fact, modern Judaism isn't purely monotheistic. It is, I forget the word. It starts with an H. You guys can look it up, but it's kind of just saying my God's better than your God, kind of thing. Not necessarily purely monotheistic, like Christianity is purely monotheistic. But during that time, they wanted one Godhead that was completely in charge. And so what they did was they made the decision that Yahweh was the God on top, when prior to that, Yahweh was the son of the God on top. Some people referred to that God as the Ancient of Days. Some people referred to that God as El. So when you hear Elohim is the sons of El. And so Yahweh prior to this was a son of El, or the Ancient of Days. And when they decided to create this more pyramid type structure of the pantheon, they put Yahweh on top. And Asherah went from being Yahweh's mother previously to Yahweh's wife in belief. And so at that time, they decided Yahweh is the one who should be deified. And that was when they removed Asherah's temples and made it illegal to worship Asherah. So that was the original impetus. If we fast forward to the time around Jesus's death, when Kemet and Rome were fighting over who was going to take control of Christianity, still boggles the mind that the Romans killed Jesus and they were the ones that won out on who was going to control Christianity. They also made decisions to remove anything that raised women up to a certain standard, and decided what books would be in there. Anything that talked about women being connected to the divine was taken out. And then some rules were put in about a woman's place in church, to keep the feminine at a certain level. I have a theory that I've presented on YouTube before, that the Holy Spirit is actually God's wife. It's not Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's Father, Mother, Son, or Father, Mother, Human, because that makes more logical sense. And every description of the Holy Spirit fits every description of goddesses. So that was, but there's no proof of that. That is, we have, what's it called in law when you've got all of this evidence, but none of it is circumstantial. It's all circumstantial evidence that I have for that. But then you fast forward to the year 591, This is when the church really went after Mary Magdalene. So there's multiple times when the powers that be have killed off any divine femininity to maintain this particular brand of monotheism, which led us into patriarchy. And I don't view patriarchy as, just men are inherently get everything and nobody else does. We all know it's a specific, you know, wealthy, pale type of masculinity that gets to be the patriarch. So I think they work hand in hand. Um, Sorry that was a really long answer. Leon says, Maggie, I never liked toxic feminine. It always sounded like something good. Now wounded feminine sounds clever and more interesting. Yeah, and I tend to talk about them in that way, that the wounded feminine harms people and the toxic fast masculinity hurts people. See how they're different, but they go together. We have harming people and we have hurting people, right? Hi, Dr. Thunder. Thank you for being in here. Okay, so, Leon says, in an earthy woman way outside of religion, I can understand why Roman government did what they did to Jesus. He said that he was king and Rome cannot rule another king. Yeah. Rael says, you're making a lot of sense with what you're saying. Oh, thank you, Rael. So one of the things that, I want to do on my channel is I'm going to point out when we have a wounded feminine, and I've touched briefly on toxic masculinity. I think men need to tell men how to be men. I try not to, unless I'm being helpful, right? If I can be helpful, I'm going to be helpful. All of the shadow work was definitely about healing a lot of those things. And the majority of the people that I talked to were men. But I think moving forward, there's going to be where I'm bringing up this goddess energy, this divine femininity, this spiritual ascendance, this 7-step. It's 7 steps, right? There were 7 gates of hell. There were 7 monsters in the vision. It's always those 7 things that we overcome to reach our spiritual transcendence. So I'm going to tell you all about it. So that's what I had for today. But I want to tell you, coming up, this coming Wednesday is more of the Book of Knowledge. This one, right? The Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch. We are doing, I know we're talking about time cells, I think. So we just talked about creative mind. Now we're going to talk about the light of life. And we're going to continue to use the time variance authority as our metaphor for what her talk is talking about. It gets pretty deep this time. And the TVA is like a perfect example. This book of knowledge reads like the guidebook of the TVA. So it kind of fits. We're even going to talk about Kang a little bit in what we're talking about. So that'll be exciting. And then next week, we're going to talk about the Shasu. Who were the Shasu? And these were people who worshiped Yahweh before the Israelites adopted Yahweh. And these are people who are erased from our common knowledge and our history. So we're going to talk about the Sashu. And then the following week, we're going to talk about the Goths, because the Goths are attached to the Sashu. And the Goths are actually also attached to our modern version of patriarchy. So we're going to talk about those. So we'll continue with the Keys of Enoch. There will be more of the little teaching videos that I started doing. Reactance came out. Emerson's Self-Reliance is getting ready to come out. Then there's going to be one on withholding. And then there's going to be one the first part of March on hegemony. So hopefully you guys like that too. I hope everybody has a good rest of their Sunday. Put in the comments, let me know what you think about my theories here. Oh, thank you, Adric. Here's my external validation. External validation dopamine for barking cameo pub. Okay. That money will be spent on the dogs. They will get a treat. That's their dopamine hit. I appreciate you so much. Raul says, from what I've read before, monotheistic religions were implemented. The feminine side of creation was more of the norm. So to remove that side, diminish the importance of the divine feminine had hurt. It's possible, in what I'm reading, these were men who were in charge, who wanted to stay in charge and wanted to maintain power, control, and money. And so they began to remove the feminine, and we've been out of balance ever since. Women aren't embracing their divine femininity. Men aren't embracing their feminine side. We sort of lost our connection, let's say. And if everything that I'm saying is true, and we have men running church, do any of us really feel connected to God through a church that's very rule oriented, and the dogma must be followed, right? It doesn't feel very unconditional and nurturing and inspiring and loving. There probably are some churches that are like that. Hopefully there are, but it kind of seems like we've lost. Has hurt us. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree. It has hurt us in the long run to remove all the femininity. And here we are, we're all worker bees, sending all of our money and energy up in this ladder of, specific patriarchy. So, I touch on that again in the hegemony video too. So I appreciate all of you being here. Oh, Leanne says church is changing big time across the board. So many people are leaving church. It's just not fulfilling. It's just not giving people what they're looking for. And so many people are grasping for knowledge and higher truth and wisdom and spirituality outside of church. It's so many people have left the church. Okay, everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go have some spaghetti and some banana pudding ice cream. I'm so excited about that. Y'all should try some. But put in the comments, and especially for the replay gang, put in the comments what you think about my theories there, especially about that the Holy Spirit was actually Jesus's mother, God's wife. But let me know what you think about my theories, because I need some external validation. All right, I'm going to show you guys a picture of my dog. Bye. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together.